Hey, everyone. Welcome to or welcome back to the Badass Confidence Coach podcast. Okay, this is part 2 of emotionally immature people in our lives. So this is how to deal with emotionally immature people in our lives. So last week we talked about what it is and some signs and symptoms and traits of emotionally immature people. This week we're talking about how do you deal with them in your life? Okay.
So this is where we take notes,
Yeah.
right?
All right, let's get started. So we've got a long list here. Overall, I want you to think about boundaries. Want you to think about self-preservation, and I want you to think about trying to understand them. All right. Number 1, accept their limitations. But this is big. So it's important that we recognize that emotionally immature people in our lives, they lack the capacity for deep emotional insight within themselves, and that change is going to be very difficult for them. It's going to take significant effort for them to change, if they change at all. Okay. So for you, adjust your expectations. Okay. Adjust what you expect of them, adjust them to align with their capabilities. All right. Focusing on what they can offer rather than what you wish they could. That's really big. That's really big.
That is big.
You know, instead of expecting emotional support from them when you're in a crisis, go to somebody else who's more emotionally immature, or go to a professional, a therapist, a coach. Okay. Because that person is not able to do that for you.
Yeah. But you're not saying they're not capable ever. You're saying that in their current,
not ever at this point, at
right
this present moment,
now, today,
this is their limitation.
got it.
And we don't know, and they're not going to change. They don't have the skills. They don't have a skill set to be able to help you because of what they're lacking within them. Doesn't mean that that can't be worked on and they can't change. But right now, it's important that you know what their limitations are.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think what you're saying to yourself is be patient.
Yeah. It's hard.
Take a second.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to be patient with them and be patient.
Right.
Do the best you can. All right. Next one, establish those boundaries and maintain them. Okay. With this person in your life. So it's important that you clearly define what behavior you will and will not accept. Okay. Emotionally immature people, they may push your limits. So you be consistent with your boundaries is crucial. It's hard to do. I'm not saying this is easy. It's hard to do and you can do it. Okay. So use calm, assertive language to communicate your boundaries to this person. Like something like, I understand you're upset, but I can't continue this conversation if you're yelling. I understand you're upset, but I need you to stop yelling so we can talk.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's your boundary. You're not going to accept the yelling and you're letting them know this is my boundary.
And you've got to be, I mean, I would got to imagine you have to be very clear with that. I mean, you can't be offering
They need that.
a moment of grayness. This is a black and white moment that you're offering them,
because
right?
they may not feel contained inside themselves.
Right.
And when you set a boundary, it actually in a way can help them feel psychologically contained a bit. You know, you're literally setting up the fence, the boundary wall. This is what I will accept. This is what I will not accept. That can help them a bit.
Will they appreciate that? I mean, are they aware that they might appreciate that or not? Not necessarily.
In the moment. They may not in the moment.
Okay.
But that's okay. They don't have to appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm just telling this to all of you, to you, Tim.
I'm just curious if somebody's that self-aware or not.
Not in the moment. No, because they're not that self-aware. Like we talked about last week, self-awareness is hard for most of us. All right. So the next one is don't take their behavior personally. This is really important. So emotional immaturity is about them, not you. All right. So don't take it personally. Their inability to regulate their emotions or take responsibility, that often stems from, it does stem from their own struggles, not your actions. That's about them. Okay. So practice emotional detachment to avoid feeling hurt or blamed unnecessarily. Okay. It's really important to tell yourself, don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. All right. Don't personalization. That's another thought distortion. Don't take this personally. Okay. So instead of reacting to their accusations that maybe they're throwing at you, lobbing them over at you, remind yourself, this is about their inability to process emotions. This is not about my worth. This is about their inability to process emotions. This is not about my worth, my self-worth, or my value.
And personally, I think it's a big ask. Well, you're asking a human to just for a moment not be human. Like, let that go. Like you can, it's so easy to take stuff personally when it's being presented as personal to you, right? And to be able to pause that inside yourself and be like, okay, I need to be Teflon now. I got to let that bounce off of me for a second, right? That's a tough ask.
I don't know that you have to be Teflon. I mean, maybe this would be a one time where you would, because you've got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I think that these relationships that we're in, and this is probably more about family members, lovers, and family members, not so much friends, because with friends, we can just kind of back up and back out. We can ghost somebody, we can blow them off. And coworkers, you can avoid them as best you can. They're not family. This is probably more about family. I know that I hear you saying it's a tough ask, but personalization, it's an unhelpful thought pattern. I think you have to work on your thoughts. I think you have to work on, don't take this personally. This is not about me. This is about them. Literally do that. Say that to yourself. That's your self talk. That will help you in this situation. They're yelling at me. They're saying this and that to me. And this is why I'm going to get to it, but I'm jumping ahead now. You need support for this. You need to be coached. You need a therapist. One of the best compliments I get from my clients, whether it be therapy or coaching, is they say, I always have you in my head, Anna, reminding me of what to say. I think of you. Like, I think of that conversation. Will you coach me up on this? Use your self talk. This is not about me. 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 Say it over and over and over.
Yeah.
It's so important that we not personalize.
Yeah.
When we know this person is this way. All right.
So here's a visual for you.
I know it's hard. I know it's hard.
It is tough. But so we've got a lot of customer service reps, right? And customer service, just that presents opportunity for this type of conversation to happen, right? Where somebody comes in all crazy and it's not about the person that's on the phone or the person that's sitting at the computer or the cash register or whatever it is. So what we tell our people is, like, when this person comes up, and it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen, and this person comes up to the counter, in your mind, visualize that you've got that clear plastic box around you, like some of like back in the day, the bank tellers had it, right? Or if you go to a currency exchange, they've got it. So there's this barrier between the person that's acting crazy,
right,
and yourself, and you need to pretend like they're directing all of their emotion to that piece of plastic that's right between you. So then by the time you get the sound, the words get to your ears and then into your brain, okay, just go with it, because they're not actually talking to you. They're talking to that piece of plastic, and it works. It's interesting to watch people, like, they'll have good facial expressions and they'll receive the comments and the feedback, but they won't react to it. Not in a bad way. You know what I mean? They'll try and diffuse it. They'll try and resolve whatever the issue might be, but it's a skill. I mean, that's not something that's easy.
But like I said, remember, emotional immaturity is about them, not you. So that right there could be a mantra of, this is about them. This is their emotional maturity. This is about them. This is about them, not me, not me. I mean, it's really important to work on that.
Yeah. Like, we always talk about, like, well, you got to remember, you don't know what led up to this.
Right.
Right. You don't know what this person dealt with this morning before they got to you.
And even though in this moment they're freaking driving me nuts and they're making me mad, and I'm trying to not get emotionally dysregulated myself right now, remember, this is about them, and that can help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is, okay, nice segue. Avoid escalating conflicts with them. Emotionally immature people, they react impulsively and can escalate situations. Stay calm and don't get pulled into the drama. You're really good at that, Tim. I've seen you in action at work. I mean, you're really good about being a calm individual in the face of a storm, and you don't get pulled into drama, rarely, if ever. You don't even get pulled into drama here in our house. You're good about that. So that's something that I think in some ways you're like an enigma, because I don't know a lot of people like you. You're really good at that. You are good in times of crisis, even like in triathlon, when people would be freaking out about things and you were their coach. I mean, you were always stayed pretty calm. So if the conversation was someone that this person's just so immature emotionally, like they're lacking in emotional intelligence, if you see drama going on, you disengage. You are responsible for yourself. Disengage from them until maybe they're in a calmer situation. That could be just like, not you be dramatic. Just go to the bathroom, walk out of the room. I need to go now. I got to get going. I got to get to a meeting. Just avoid conflicts or at least escalating them. And there are ways that you can do that. We can all do that.
Yeah.
All right.
A lot of times I think the person just wants to be heard. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
you have to acknowledge, you have to give them their spotlight for a second, right? Let them speak.
But if you're not good at it and you see somebody's being very
Yeah.
dramatic and getting really angry and fired up, you could even say like, okay, I see this as a really emotional topic for you. I see that you're getting, I wouldn't say fired up. I'd say like, I can see that you have a lot of feelings about this. And you know inside yourself, like, I'm feeling really mad back at them. Like, I also want to yell at them because they're triggering me and they're making me mad. Like, I'm getting stirred up now.
Sure.
You could say something like, let's take a break and come back. Okay, we got to talk about this, but let's take a break. That we're both in more calm state. Let's just both calm down and we'll talk about it, but let's take a break. I mean, you've done that before. Like, I know that we've done that before.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. I think sometimes you have to. I mean, even if you feel like you're good in those situations or calm in those situations, there's definitely times where it's like, it's best just to walk away.
Right.
Right. Because there could be that one topic that just kind of gets you going a little too much. And you might say something that you can't take back.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's better to take a break.
And that's what I said last week is respond, don't react.
Yeah.
Respond as best you can. Try not to react. Reactions get us into trouble.
Big time trouble, I think.
Yeah.
You know, potentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In so many situations in our lives we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
Okay. A next tip for all of you is communicate directly and simply. Use straightforward, clear communication. Don't be sarcastic. Don't give subtle hints or emotional appeals to that person. Be all emotional. These can be really misunderstood from somebody who is low in their emotional intelligence. Stick to the facts rather than relying on emotional reasoning. Okay. Don't play that game. All right. You be direct. You stick to the facts. So instead of saying, you never listen to me, you could say something like, I need you to hear me out before responding. I need you to hear me out on this. Like, you never this, you never that. Don't go there. Don't do that. Now you just escalated. So be direct and be simple in your communication with that person.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't think it's wrong to suggest that person calms down in a nice way.
But don't say calm down to them.
You're not going to say it that way.
That's the worst thing you could say.
You're not going to say
somebody.
those words.
It's patronizing.
Yeah.
It feels disrespectful. Don't say calm down to people.
Yeah. But
across the board, no matter what's the situation, I will pretty much say that.
Yeah.
Is that black and white? It's not black and white thinking, but I think what I know experientially is people do not like being told calm down.
Well, you don't say those two words,
Right.
calm down,
Right.
But I think there's a way you can say it where you're suggesting that if we're going to have a good conversation and resolve something, we need to be able to hear each other and give each other time to speak. So there has to be a little bit of both from
That's
both
why
of
I
us.
think it's important to say, like, let's both calm down. Like, that's better. Like, I need to calm down and let's just take a break and let's circle back in an hour or so. And this is also another really great way of, we call it how to fight well. You and I have talked about this.
Sure.
This comes from, does this come from Gottman or does this come from another training? I don't know if it's Gottman. Yeah, it's Gottman, where when this is in romantic relationships where you're in a big argument or fight with your partner, your spouse, and you're feeling flooded. We call it flooded, or it's another word or term for feeling overwhelmed emotionally. The sort of air quote rule in fighting is that I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. You're making me really mad. I need a break. And it's okay to you got to let that person take their break, because just because you're not feeling flooded, you're not feeling overwhelmed, and you want to get into it and you want to resolve this issue, doesn't mean the other person's the exact same place that you are at. And they may be feeling flooded. So if they're saying, I need a break, let them take that break. But the rule is, if you're the person who needs to take a step away, you got to tell the person when you're going to regroup and talk about it again. We'll talk tonight. We'll talk tonight after dinner. I can't do it right now. I just can't. So that's the rule.
That seems like a
couples
fair
therapy.
request.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. To your point earlier, Tim, I know this is very, very difficult. It's easy for me and you to talk about this on a podcast. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to experience somebody like this in our lives. So I know that last week's and this week's episode, these are really tough relationships that most of us face. And so I want to say that I know that this is hard. I know that what I'm saying to all, I'm not just saying this easily. These are conversations I'm having with therapy and coaching clients. They're in therapy, they're in coaching for a reason.
Yeah.
And interpersonal and intimate relationships are one of the reasons, well, many of the reasons why my clients come to me.
Yeah.
So I know that.
And you need to stress, like, they have chosen to do that, right? No,
they've chosen to work it out with a professional because it's so hard for them.
Yeah.
Because they come to me and they say, I've hit a wall. I can't do this anymore. We are completely deadlocked. And it can be around emotional immaturity. But they love the person and they want to be in relationship with them, whether it be their husband, their wife, their life partner, their adult child. They love them. Their teenager, their mom, their sister, whether you be in your late teens or in your 80s. I've seen this throughout the lifespan. They love these people. This is just what emotional immaturity is, one part of them. There's much of them that's wonderful and that you do love. Like they're a great person to go out to dinner with. They're a great person. They love to go shopping. You love to go shopping. Maybe you go hunting with them. Maybe there's things you love to do with them. But there's this piece of the relationship that is not getting better.
Yeah.
And they're not changing. So they come to me and they're usually saying, I need help with this relationship. Sometimes I have people when they get into my office, whether it be on Zoom or live in person, and I think, okay, this person is dealing with some emotional immaturity. So I teach them the skills to increase their emotional intelligence, EQ, as we call it.
But most of the time, you're talking to the other person in that two-person
Most of
scenario.
I'm talking to the other person, but there's the good percentage of the time when the person that's coming to me is emotionally immature. They have never learned these skills.
It's interesting.
They've never learned how to be more mature and raise their emotional intelligence, EQ or EI, as we call it today, in relationships. They never learned it. So I'm teaching them.
Yeah. But it's kind of
so
cool.
Valuable. It's transformative, this work.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of cool because that person, arguably, as we said last week, is typically not self-aware.
They don't know.
But they've become enough self-aware that they called you.
Well, they don't know that it's a lack of emotional maturity.
Yeah.
They just don't understand why relationships are not working out. That's their pain point, as we call it. That's where they're really feeling hurt and pain in their life. And that's what gets them to text me or email me or pick up the phone and call me, because they're losing relationships, or relationships are not working out the way they thought they would, and they cannot figure it out. But they know deep down inside at some level that it might be them, but they also come in kind of pissed off at the other people too.
Mm.
And once I help them develop psychological safety with me and trust, then we really can get into the good stuff and the good work of this. I call it soul work. I think this is life work. It's personal development work, but I think it's soul work.
And that's an interesting, the way you just described it. There's your hurdle first, because they need to become comfortable
with me,
with you,
and to trust me, because it's so emotionally intimate what we talk about, to make themselves vulnerable. I mean, it's like they're showing me their underbelly.
Yeah,
it can feel very exposing. So they've got to feel trust. They've got to feel that there's no judgment, and that I have this unconditional positive regard for them, no matter what, as a human being.
Right. Cool.
And I am honored by their willingness to come and talk to me. I have respect and honor for it, because that's a big step, whether it be therapy or coaching.
Yeah.
It's important to me that the supplements I take are of the highest quality. And that's why for 5 years, I've been drinking AG1. Unlike many supplement brands, AG1 conducts relentless testing to set the standard for purity and potency. I know I can trust what's in every scoop of AG1 because it's tested for 950 contaminants and banned substances, while the industry standard typically only tests for 10. Taking care of my health shouldn't be complicated, and AG1 simplifies this by covering my nutritional basis and setting myself up for success in just 60 seconds. AG1's ingredients are heavily researched for efficacy and quality, and I love that every scoop also includes prebiotics, probiotics, and digestive enzymes for gut support. So if you want to replace your multivitamin and more, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first subscription at drinkag1.com/Anna. That's drinkag1.com/Anna. Check it out. You will not regret it.
The next step in how you deal with emotionally immature people is, so if you're dealing with an emotionally immature person and you're coming to me and you're in my practice and we've gone through all kinds of ways to deal with this person and it doesn't seem like you're getting anywhere, I would tell you to protect your energy. Limit your exposure to this person because they are draining you, and other tactics and strategies that we've talked about have not worked. You got to protect your energy and limit your exposure.
That can be a tough message to hear. Limit your exposure. What if this is a person they don't want to separate?
You limit conversations. You've got to find ways to prioritize your self-care. And you've got to spend time with people who are supportive of you and who are emotionally mature, who are like your vibration at your level. You've got to have those people in your life as well, because these individuals can be very, very hard for you.
Yeah.
I've worked with teenagers who this is the entire family environment. And you want to talk about hard. They become aware of this and we realize that this is their family system. And then they have to, after 45 minutes with me, it's easy for us to talk about it. I know they have to go back and be in that family.
Yeah.
I know that it's 45, 50 minutes a week. And the rest of their life is the acknowledgement and the awareness of the limitations of the family. Let's say that's like as a 17-year-old, the limitations of the family that they're in. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if a person that you are around you find is toxic or they're consistently harmful to you in an emotional way, a verbal way, I would say you've really got to reduce contact with them, because verbal abuse, emotional abuse, no, sorry, that's a non-negotiable. You may have to consider reducing contact with them. And in some cases, you've got to step away from the relationship. We don't like what we call them cutoffs in relationships, where you just cut somebody out. But if this is someone who is consistently, and maybe you've tried to talk to them and they're not changing, you got to cut them out for your own mental health and your sanity.
Yeah.
And I rarely say that. And there are times when I have recommended with my client, I think that you just got to go no contact. You got to love them from a distance, because that person's not changing and they're doing damage to you.
Yeah.
They're affecting your mental health.
So you've defined at that point that person is not ever going to change.
They're never going to change.
Right.
And maybe you just, you got to minimize your time spent with them. And maybe it's like, I can't do it completely. So maybe you have to see them at Thanksgiving, but you don't go for the entire time, or maybe Christmas Eve, but there's a lot of people there and it's a neutral setting. It's like, all right, I can do that. I don't really want to, but there's other people there I want to see on Christmas Eve or on 4th of July. And when there's 20 people there, I don't have to deal with that one person. So, there's not 18 other people that I can hang out with, 19 other people. And then there are times when there has to be a cutoff completely. If that person is abusive towards you.
Yeah.
And I support that.
That makes sense.
Okay. So choose your battles wisely. All right. So and this is a big one, not every issue is worth addressing with that person. They're emotionally immature. Maybe you've been talking about it. You've been reading about it. You're listening to this podcast. Not every issue is worth bringing up. Okay. So pick your battles of what really, really matters, rather than getting drawn into every disagreement with them. This is a really big one. It's like, yeah, not worth my time. I'm not going there with you. You go ahead. You be the way you are. You go on your rant talking about what you're talking about. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
Be what we call a gray rock. We talk about this a lot with
gray rock.
Gray rock. We talk about being a gray rock with narcissists in your life.
Okay.
Because a narcissist feeds off of your being reactive. So being a gray rock is, think about a gray rock. You're just blah. Uh-huh. 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 That's what, you never heard that before?
No.
Really?
No one's ever heard of that before.
No, I did a post on it.
Really?
It was a very popular post, probably back in 2020. Yeah, gray rock is big when we talk about how you work with narcissists. Just be very like blah.
There's no
Give
other way
them
to call it?
nothing to react to.
Yeah.
Just be neutral.
Okay.
Be blah. Be gray. All right. So let go of the need to fix them. Okay. Or change their perspective on issues. All right. let go of that. Many of us feel like, oh, I'm going to fix them. I'm going to make this better. I'm going to tell them this. I'm going to say this or that to them. That'll work. No, it doesn't. And it doesn't work. So move out of your own mental position of I'm going to fix them. Okay. For example, let's take a work situation. If someone is late to a meet, let's say you're running a meeting, Tim, and this person was just an emotionally immature colleague of mine, and they're late to your meeting. If it doesn't affect you significantly, let it go. Don't confront them. Like you and I say all the time, pick your battles and pick them wisely. This is a perfect scenario. Choose them wisely.
Yeah.
You don't want to have a fight or a confrontation or we need to have a talk, you and I. No. Let it go. Okay. It's not every battle is yours to have with them.
Well, and that's probably not even about that, right? There's probably something else that happened, like maybe it was yesterday, maybe it was a week ago, maybe it was, who knows, right? And now that this little thing happened, you're like, oh, now I'm on you, right? Now we're going to sit down and talk about this stuff. It's not even about that little thing. That's nothing.
But just choose them wisely.
Gray rock.
And then be a gray rock. And then when you see them do something that's good and positive, reinforce that. Throw them a bone, acknowledge that, say, hey, I noticed, I really loved how you listened without interrupting. I really appreciate that. It just made the conversation so much easier with you. I thank you for that. Thank you for giving me some of the oxygen in the room. Thank you for giving me the space and the time to talk. I appreciate that. Okay. So when you see them showing or demonstrating emotional maturity, make sure you acknowledge that, reinforce it, high five to them. All right. Really important because they'll remember that.
Yeah.
All right. And then practice empathy. Of course, there's going to be limits to this. I don't want you to totally be empathic to the point where you lose yourself, but try to take some time to understand where their behavior comes from. You may know how they were raised. That's an example that helps me a lot. Like I know how they were raised. They obviously did not get something in their life. Emotional immaturity, it's so much of this is rooted in unresolved issues from childhood, trauma. They have unmet needs. And these are deep, deep needs of theirs. And they lack the emotional skill building. They never learn how to build these emotional skills. So try to put the shoe on the other foot. Doesn't mean you let them walk all over you, but try to understand where they're coming from. Like I said earlier, I understand you're feeling overwhelmed. This is an example. I understand you're feeling overwhelmed. I want to listen to you, but I can't help if you don't, you got to stop yelling. I can't help. I can't listen to you if you keep yelling. So practice empathy, but have your limits. You don't want them to continue yelling at you because that can feel very uncomfortable and get abusive.
It's going nowhere.
It's going nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. Last but not least, it's one of the last ones. Get professional help for yourself if you need it. But also, I think, if you can in this relationship, maybe this is your partner, this is your spouse, maybe this is your kid, maybe it's a good friend of yours that you really do love. Because I said earlier, you have lots and lots of fun with this person, but they have this emotional maturity part. Encourage them to go talk to somebody. Encourage them to go to therapy or get coached to develop those emotional skills. You could even see something like I've been in therapy and, I have a life coach and he or she has really helped me. They've really helped me in my life, advanced me. I learned so much from this person. It might be helpful for you too. To talk about yourself and talk about maybe if you've received therapy, counseling, or coaching, talk about your experience and then encourage them to do it as well. Okay. Rather than you need to talk to someone because that comes across as you judging them and putting them down. It doesn't
sound so encouraging.
And you're one-upping, you're kind of one-upping yourself and one-downing them. Don't do that.
Yeah. Has anybody ever run stats on that? Like a referral from the other person? Like I'm sure in the industry, there's probably somebody that's run numbers on that at some point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Have you stumbled into that or
no?
not?
Well, I haven't looked for it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's.
That would be an interesting
That would
stat.
be an interesting study.
Yeah.
I'd have to go to PubMed and actually look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting.
And then for you, focus on your own emotional maturity, right? Look at yourself. Strengthen your own emotion regulation skills. Strengthen and work on your own self-awareness and interpersonal skills. These are lifelong skills. Like we were saying in last week's episode about when I've been emotionally immature with you and how we continue to work on it. I continue to work on myself. Work on yourself. Focus on yourself. Okay. The more grounded you are, the less their behavior is going to get to you. All right. So for me, what has really helped me not react to people in my life who can get me very knee-jerk reactive, specifically in my family of origin, is mindfulness and meditation. It has been game changing in helping me just respond or not even respond to where normally I would react to lots of emotion dysregulation with people in my life. I've learned ways to manage my stress, and I've had to work to stay centered and grounded, but that has made a huge difference in how I show up with these people in my life, because these are people that I love and these are people that I care about. There's parts of them that drive me crazy, just like there's parts of me that drive them nuts. Me working on staying grounded and staying calm via meditation and prayer has really helped me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we said it out loud last week. Like, you get into these difficult conversations or moments, and it's like, I think for us, we have to remember, like, we are 50% of that.
Yeah.
Right? There's two people, you divide
Right.
all of that in half, like, you have to own half of it yourself.
Leave your ego at the door.
Yeah.
We say it all the time. Leave your ego at the door. When you go into a situation, literally tell yourself, ego, you stay here. And when you do that, you show up so differently. It's not about me. It's not about me having a say. It's not me saying some insightful, intelligent statement full of wisdom. It's not about who knows the most. It's not about being right. It's so liberating and freeing to let that go. But yeah, you're around people who are emotionally immature, but leave your own ego at the door.
Yeah.
Work on maybe being quiet. Work on engaging them in a conversation in a different kind of way. This next one, be prepared for resistance from these individuals. So, when you're setting up boundaries with them, they're going to probably push back on that, because when we're emotionally mature, we don't like boundaries being set. We don't like that at all. When we're emotionally mature, we don't like how you communicate or suggestions for changing. We don't want that. We don't want to hear that. And who are you to tell me? And I'm getting mad again. I'm getting emotionally dysregulated again because you think you think you're just so much better than me.
Right.
So you're going to get some resistance. And this we see more in families. Okay. So expect pushback, but stay firm without engaging in a power struggle with that person. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really hard one, because this may be somebody that you love and care about, and you're trying to establish those boundaries with them, and they're really pushing back on you. Like, oh, because you're doing something different that system is used to. Oh, so now you have boundaries.
Right.
Ooh, is that what your therapist, I've heard this before. Is that what your therapist told you to do? Did Anna tell you to have boundaries with me? How many times over the years have I heard that? Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's okay. And I'm working on that,
Yeah.
because I got to take care of me. All right. But be prepared for the resistance. If this person refuses to respect your boundary, just calmly repeat. I've already said, I can't discuss this issue. That maybe there's an issue you're having with them. I can't discuss this right now. Let's talk about it later. It's boundaries, boundaries, boundaries.
Yeah.
They'll get used to it. They may not like it, but they'll get used to it.
They'll have to get used to it.
And the respect for you goes up, actually.
Right. Right.
And like I said this earlier, know when you got to walk away. Know when you got to walk away from a situation. Know when you got to leave a condo, apartment, a house. When you get out of the car, like, okay, I need to remove myself from this situation. But if the behavior becomes toxic, if it's harmful, it's abusive, your well-being is number one. You cannot change somebody who doesn't want to change. So if they don't want to change, it's not your job. You got to make it. It's not your problem. Okay. Like I said earlier, you may have to cut ties with that person in order to save your mental health.
What was that song? No one to hold them.
Kenny Rogers.
Right. I mean, that's such a great line.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this is.
Yeah. And get support for yourself.
Yeah.
Just get support. And if that means talking to a friend, but don't talk their ear off. Don't abuse the friendship relationship. Talk to them. Talk to maybe more than one friend. Go talk to a clergy person. If you have a rabbi, a pastor, a priest, go talk to somebody, get therapy, pay for coaching if you have insurance, whatever way. There are so many people out there who can help you with this. Utilize them. Okay. We are put here in your life for a reason. And I really feel that it's a calling. What I do as a therapist and a coach is a calling. I'm trained in this. I know I have the skills. I have them. I can teach them to you. Reach out. Okay. And that leads me to come talk to me. If you are looking for coaching, email me hello@annamarcolin.com. I would be happy to get on a discovery call. Let's talk. Okay. I know this stuff. I've been doing it for almost 30 years and I love what I do. I love my clients. And let's see if I would be a good fit for you. All right. So all this to say, this is really about having boundaries with yourself of what you're available for, what you're not available for, how you're showing up in relationships with people who are emotionally immature. Be aware of that's your self awareness. Have compassion for them. They're struggling. Many of these people who are emotionally immature, more as adults, not so much adolescents, because adolescence, that's a little bit of the formative time in their lives where there's emotional maturity. But as adults, many of them have had relationships that have ended because of this. So have compassion. At the same time, boundaries, watch yourself. Sometimes we got to love people from a distance. There are occasions we do need to cut people out of our lives because they're just not good for us. All right. So this is how we take care of ourselves in relationships with emotionally immature people.
I like it.
Okay. And if this is you, I would recommend I throw a grace and compassion to you. And if you're listening to this today and you're like, oh my gosh, this is me, I am that person, that's okay. Go talk to somebody, because there are skills that we have that we can teach you. You just don't know them yet. You can really, really change. And it's really transformative. All right. Okay, everyone. So please rate, review the podcast with 5 stars. And thanks for listening. Mad love until next week.
Right.